to be the saint of kicks. Alright. If you watched until the end of this video, you might just know what that means. Alright. What's the story today? I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real world too! Whoa! What's there to say? Well, right off the rip. Rating-wise, like, you know what? It's entertainingly bad, so I'll give it a 6. But I want to make this clear. This is not a rating because the story is godly or anything. It is purely based on art and entertainment value. So what's the gist? It's kind of an isekai, but he has the ability to go back to his normal life and stay in the real world at the same time. So it's not like I'm brought to another world and I'm stuck there. Like, no, he can stay in the real world as well as this other world and kind of get the benefits of both. So basically there's no negative. So what's the gist? Well, this guy is reincarnated into another world in a pseudo way, right? Basically, he finds a door that allows him to travel to this world that just so happens to be in his grandfather's place, and it just so happens it connects to the saints, area or whatever, or this sage. He, for some reason, doesn't have enough brain cells to think that, his grandfather has some connection to this world. Not saying he does or doesn't, but, like, the idea that he doesn't even think that for a split second is a little weird. He acts like it's just random. Just saying it's a bit odd. But yeah, he goes to this other world, basically becomes super overpowered, and it ends up just being like a power fantasy where he just gets more and more powerful repeatedly. And of course, it's one of those situations where it's like, oh, there's this one girl that's like, that fell in love with him in the real world after he defended her and her honor. And the idea is, like, in the real world, he's kind of like he started out as being like really fat and like short and things like that. But when he like goes to this other world, they have like a level up system. He levels up and then like basically physically transforms into like this optimal form where he's, super lean, tall, just perfect, in terms of like physique, not fat anymore. But the idea is like, oh, he's so pure-hearted and everything that this girl, even before his change, really admired him just because, he defended her in public one time. So it's kind of getting that, like, it's hitting that idea where it's like, oh, he's so kind and wonderful, and now his insides and his outsides match and blah blah blah, and it's like, yeah, yes, whatever, but like he's not going through any work to lose this weight. He's not like, showing any determination to be better. So it doesn't really feel earned. And then like he just has the interest of all these like other people just because. Now he's physically capable and everything, but also apparently it's his heart. Of course, this is one of those isekai stories where there's multiple love interests, so there's a love interest in the other world as well. This girl's like a princess. He basically just randomly saves her one time. I have to say, when he saves her, it's a little weird because she's being like hunted, basically. And she's being hunted by like a group of assassins, right? And they're, chasing her throughout this forest. And then just randomly, like, they all get just murdered by monsters. So, like, where this, like, sage's hut is like a forest filled with monsters. They're all super dangerous. She gets chased through this forest randomly. I don't know why she was just, like, around this forest. a little weird. I don't understand that. But they end up chasing her into the forest, and then they all of the assassins just die to monsters. And then he comes in and then just kills the monster, and then basically she's saved. I think this is really weird because it's like, okay, not weird, but it's like poor storytelling, because clearly the idea with the storytelling is like they don't want the main character to kill these assassins because then he'd be a murderer, even though he's like, you know, helping someone who's about to get killed or whatever, but whatever. So the idea is basically they have to get X'd out and killed by another party, and it's just like, okay, so she's randomly going by this forest. The assassins randomly pick that time to attack her. She just so happens to run through this forest, right? Like, she's running through this forest at this random time that he happens to be there, because like I said, he is able to go back to the real world. So he just so happens to be in this world while she's being attacked, while she's near this forest, while she's being hunted by assassins. The assassins can't catch her in the normal world, so she goes into this the normal area, so they go into the forest. And then all of the assassins just so happen to get killed by a monster. And then he just has to kill that monster again. Like, it's just, like, don't get me wrong, there's plot developments that just kind of need to happen to get a story moving and everything. But that is so convoluted. And I feel like, you know, you might not think about it if you're just like breezing through the story, but like that's so many steps just to get this character to be attacked at the right time and him to not have to like fight, which is crazy. And it's all, and that's early on, and that gave me like a very clear picture that this is like the quality we're getting. But that's also like the clearest picture of how this, you know, how the writing is in this story. It's basically just, you know, they want to give him powers. He, you know, he becomes a model at one point with that relative ease. He, you know, can go to the real world and do whatever he wants. He has cheat abilities in the other world. Like it's the clearest like idea ever. It's just, I want to make my main character super OP and have no issues doing anything at any time. To make them broken everywhere. Nothing is, you know, difficult for them. Everything comes like, you know, pre-packaged. Like every girl in the story basically loves him. It's just, it's one of those stories where like there is no substance. You just made an OP character, and then we'll just give him like random cute pets as mascots. Like, there is no substance here at all. The writing is just, from like what I said before, it's super poor. I'm not gonna go into every single story beat. You know, you get the idea just from that one idea, right? Like it's not necessarily well written. It's just trying to get a plot point to move forward. They don't really try very hard to make like an actually compelling or interesting story. They're just trying to make the main character as OP as possible. And by the way, that whole Saint of Kicks thing at the start, there is a literal rabbit in this series. And I don't even care if this is a spoiler. If you care about spoilers for this series, I don't know what's wrong with you. But there is a literal rabbit in this story that's called the Saint of Kicks. That's his genuine like title. And he comes to the main character and says, I need to train you so you can kick evil. It's like, what? Why? What? So yeah, so he literally goes on a training arc with a literal rabbit. And this is like, the world has not established things like this. There's not just talking rabbits. So it randomly just shows up. It's the Saint of Kicks. He like makes fun of the main character for sucking at kicking. And then they go on a training arc where, you know, this rabbit teaches the main character how to kick. It's just like, what am I reading? It's just, I don't know. It's just no substance storytelling. who the hell knows what they're even trying to do? It's just not good. All right, we'll move on. We'll do the SAE. What is the SAE? Well, it's story, art, enjoyment. Story-wise, like a 3. It's really bad. Poor storytelling. I don't think the author really knows how to connect different plot points. It's just kind of like throwing things at a wall and hoping that they stick. Art-wise is actually it's pretty good art. You know, it's pretty good art. I really can't complain about anything. I would say it's probably between a 7 and an 8. It's definitely one of the highlights. Like it's you know, not super unique in the designs, but I mean like some of the designs are relatively unique. And the quality is definitely there. Enjoyment-wise, because it's so bad, it's actually like pretty fun. So I'll give it a 7. It's just it's genuinely fun bad. So overall, I think like a fair rating, if we're being objective, is probably like a 6, because like the story, you know, you just really have to take that into account. I don't know. If you're really looking at it, like the story is super bad. It's just I want to be OP. That's why it's a 3. There's really no substance. It's not written very well. It's just trying to like throw stuff to make the character more OP. Art's pretty good. I would say a 7's probably the more accurate rating. It's just quality. Enjoyment-wise, I mean, this is like the most subjective category, but for me it's a 7. It's funny. It's like funny how bad it is. So overall, yeah, 6. It's entertainingly bad. Like, to be below a 5 or, you know, 6, and like in that rating, you have to be bad to the point where I don't want to read it. This is bad where it's still fun to read. Like once you start, you're probably not going to put it down. Now, I wouldn't recommend going out of my way to read it, but if you started reading it, it's pretty entertaining. But yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. I'd appreciate it if you could like, comment, subscribe, maybe leave another story you want me to read down below. Even if I've read it, I'll read it again. And yeah, I'll see ya.